Awesome. So lovely to have you here with me today. Today, we are going to talk about curiosity and how to build your curiosity as well. So I'm going to start by just sharing my screen. All right. Can you see this? Yes? Okay, awesome. Great. Perfect. Okay, so one of the things that I want to share first is just a couple quick stories. Why is it important for us to build our muscles around curiosity? I can share really quickly for those of you who don't know myself and Gotcare. We are a personalized home care experience that provides greater efficiency, empathy, control. We have 14,000 frontline workers in our platform, and we were able, through curiosity, to reduce the cost of home care delivery by 30%. So the questions that we asked ourselves were, what does it truly mean to be cared for? What does this mean for patients, their families, frontline workers? And what biases and assumptions do we need to let go of in order for a new care paradigm to emerge? We're currently working on a model called care at cost, which sounds as crazy as it is. And we only got here through curiosity. Another example I want to share with you. At SheEO, there are team meetings happening all the time where they have this thing called 100 questions, where they're literally asking questions like, who is an activator? Who is a venture? Even though these questions may feel like that you have an answer already, one of the things to remember is that the world is constantly changing and we need to adapt to it. So what does it mean to be curious? Well, really simply, it's a quest for questions. What can I learn instead of what do I know? And it's important for us to embrace a beginner's mind, even if you are an expert. So one of the quotes that I love to share around curiosity is this. It's by D.H. Lawrence, and he says, "The map appears to us more real than the land." And what I want you to take away from that is to not just think about physical maps, right? Like in terms of, I'm sure, I don't know if any of you remember like the old school maps that you had to navigate with to drive around. Well, so often, they represent information that no longer exists, but they still contain information that's helpful. The past is still helpful. And it's important for us to identify these biases, suspend our judgment, and allow emerging patterns to emerge. So I just want to stop for a second, and I want everyone here to reflect. What are some maps that you hold in your life that may be outdated, that may have new roads that aren't currently chartered? And just take a moment to reflect on what some of those maps are. I'd love to see in the chat as well. If anyone cares to share? I can share for me personally, one of the maps I'm currently navigating is friendships. One of the I don't know about you, but friendships for me have been deeply challenged over COVID. And so just remapping what it truly means to be a friend, to show up for others as well. See here maps of how businesses grow, what success means. Love it. Yes, we've always done it this way. A map of what wealth is. Oh, love that so much. Capacity. So great. All right, let's come back here. Okay, so to just demonstrate this a little bit more, what I want you to do is I want you to just take a minute and see as many things as you can see from this picture. I want you to challenge yourself to see 10 things. Let's just take a minute. If you see anything in the chat, pop it in. Just challenge yourself, push yourself more. What else can I see here? All right. Now I'm going to give you a map. So what was previously just information, now it's organized for you in a way. But here's the challenge with maps. When I take that away, I now want you to challenge yourself to see more things again. Notice how much harder that is now. And so some reflections I'd love for you to share in the chat right now is just, what did you discover? How much harder was that for you? Yeah, for sure. Hard but still curious, absolutely. And so this is a timeless challenge. This doesn't just happen in our personal lives and in our own beliefs, but it happens in our systems that we operate in. Kodak, one of the last organizations really to embrace a digital camera, or even in recent history, right, with our political ecosystem and how we were so sure that in certain elections that certain people would win, yet again, our maps may have misguided us in certain ways. Or another example, Blockbuster had the opportunity to actually purchase Netflix, right? Or another example, or there's so many where you had car manufacturers in the US who went to Japan for the first time, and they said, that's not what a factory looks like, there's too much white. So constantly we have so many maps, and it is actually through curiosity that we are able to let go of some of these maps. So what I want to do is I just want to practice what it means to embrace our curiosity. So we're going to pull up a couple of images on the screen. And what I want you to do in the chat is to generate as many questions as you have about the image that shows up. Go for quantity. Do not judge the quality of your questions. Go for quantity and be gentle with yourself. It takes practice. So I'm going to start here. So we have this image here. It's from Swastikan Botanicals, a SheEO venture. And just looking at that image, I want you to generate as many questions as you have about what you see. Where's the light from? Yes, great, Carolyn. What else? Where is this? Is the view from the bottom? Ooh, is it winter or summer? Love it. All right. Now I want you to just try the same thing, but now I want you to do it with a second image. This time though, I would like for you to write down your questions, not in the chat, but actually in a notepad physically or on your computer. And the reason is because we're actually going to analyze what questions you brought up. Okay, so important that you don't do it in the chat so you can see the collection of your questions. So we're going to do this again, but with this picture from KaiXR, coming up with as many questions as you can in your own space. I want you to keep track of the questions that you have there. So another 30 seconds, come up with as many questions as you have about this image here. Ten more seconds, get your last questions out. All right, pens or keyboard down. What I want you to do now is I want you to look at the questions in front of you, okay? Notice the first two words that you use for your questions. What types of questions do you ask? All the time. So I'll give you an example. For me, I ask all the time, I ask questions about what and how. That is how my brain is geared. There's so many other questions that I don't tend to ask. And so what I want you to do is I want you to just notice that, right? So how many who questions do you ask? How many what questions do you ask? How many how, when, where, and why questions do you ask? And we won't have enough time to explore this in this particular breakout. But I want you to just sit with that for a moment and think, why is it do I ask the types of questions that I ask? And why is it do I perhaps unconsciously avoid other types of questions? Anyone have any insights that they want to share in the chat so far? Yes, I see a lot of you asking, some of you asking who, what, whys, a lot of what's. I know our culture, right? Our current settler culture is is really centered around what. So many what's. Love it, love it. So great. Yeah. So this time, okay, I want you to just write on your separate sheet of paper or virtual notepad. I want you to just keep note of the types of questions you don't ask. Just like put it in the corner. Okay. Just pop it in the corner. And what we're going to do again is we're going to bring up another image. But this time, I want you to challenge yourself to only ask the types of questions that you don't ask and to just see how that feels. Okay, so let's do it again. This is a image courtesy of another SheEO venture, backcountry walk. So again, as many questions as you can, but trying to focus on the types of questions that you don't ask. I'm going to give another 30 seconds, just a little bit more time, because I know that asking questions that we don't typically ask, it's a little harder. Ten more seconds. Yes, Carolyn, it's so tricky, right? All right. Pens down or keyboards down. Now, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. How was that experience for you? How was it to ask questions that you typically don't ask? Crazy. I wish we could have like interactive dialogue so I could hear your voices as well. Challenging but powerful. Great. Awesome. So hard. I know. All right. So what I want to, for you to ask yourself beyond the time that we have here together and the limited time that we have is, what is getting in the way, in my way, when I try to ask those types of questions? Are there any fears that I'm holding on to that don't serve me anymore, that prevent me from asking those types of questions? Is there perhaps some unresolved trauma experience that is leading me towards certain types of questions that are shaping the types of questions that I do ask? Perhaps it's opinions that are not your own, perspectives that are not your own. Perhaps it's just constructs of other people who've told us what good questions are, that are just reinforcing the types of questions that we tend to ask, and therefore the direction that our curiosity typically takes us. Yeah, belief system, cultural training, for sure, stereotypes, absolutely. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to just take a collective 3 breaths just to calm down our nervous systems. And then I want you to do it again, but this time I want you to ask just as many questions as you can. Instead of just focusing on the ones that you don't ask, I want you to think about, what would it look like for me to ask a diverse set of questions? Okay, so in, hold, out, hold, in, hold, out, hold. One more time. In, hold, out, hold. Shake it out of your system. Okay, next image. We're going for as many, for as more diversity of questions, right? So not just diversity in the people in our rooms, not just diversity in terms of the ideas that we have, but also in the questions that we hold as well. So this image is credit to Joey Band. It's yet again another SheEO venture. And again, reflecting on the what, the where, the why, the how, who, when, all of those types of questions. And as you're doing this, I just want you to notice about yourself. What needs to be true in order for me to ask a diverse set of questions? Perhaps a point of self-inquiry as you are generating these questions. Another 10 seconds. All right. Pens or keyboards down. Quick reflection. Please share in the chat. How did that feel? Did you discover something about yourself that you want to share to the rest of us in the group? It was empowering. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Anyone else? What did you discover about yourself? See, a lot of you love asking questions. Yes, Miri, change is totally hard. Yeah, it felt freeing to use more than just my standard questions. I love that. Love that. Made me think harder to reflect on the types of questions I can ask. Absolutely, right? Giving ourselves permission to ask certain types of questions. I know for me, for example, that in terms of the who specifically and the where and the when, I always felt that those things are predefined for me for a very long time. So I never asked those types of questions because I assume those constraints are placed on me. Julie, you feel like you're being outed? No worries. When I did this for the first time, I totally felt like I was being outed. Yeah, awesome. Well, we only have 30 seconds left. So I just wanted to share my gratitude for your time with me here today. If you would like to share your experience on social, the hashtag is SheEO Magic. And if you have any more questions about questions or how to ask questions, feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to explore that with you. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care.